What's that?
I looked high and low. I cannot find my pledge card.
I can get your
I found your beautiful letter.
Oh, okay.
Which I reread, but I have not. I can't. So before I leave today, I'll just,
Yeah, or you can just email. You can email me.
Hardly high. Oh, I'm not good at that.
Well, thank you. My email inbox is just at work. It's like 15,000 emails. Yeah, it's because you don't want to throw them out. And you put them in folders on the sides. I'm with you. Okay. So this slide, just jump in whenever and talk about sort of where we are, and then your neighbor.
Yeah.
Talk about your neighbor at the end of this slide, the Giving at Grace Church.
Yeah, that's the joyous giving.
Yes, joyous giving. Okay, so that's it. All right. Right in the front row. Don't make me cry.
Diane made me cry.
She made me cry too. That was.
See what happens. That's why I say when you're giving reflections, you don't got it until you speak it from the heart.
Right.
And then when you go heart to heart, you feel it.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Absolutely do.
It moves.
Absolutely do. So I think that's a great recommendation from Alex to go ahead and put together, or put that quote that she had at the beginning of our Grace Episcopal.
Yeah.
That quote about gratitude. So,
Yep.
where did he go? Did he have to leave? Got mine.
Ran, so he didn't have to get pulled. No, I see him. He's talking to.
Oh yeah. I got my notes.
Right.
So, I just,
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. Just give him 30 seconds.
All right, where's Brad Summers when I need him with the whistle? As always.
Camera's over there.
Yeah. Well, I think this microphone's for the production. It's not for you. So. All right, folks. Let's light this candle. Right. Oh, do I open with a prayer? Do I open the? I usually do, right? That's my thing. All right, if everybody's ready, just a couple of notes for our viewers at home. Welcome. If you're viewing on our platform, watch I'm sorry. If you're watching on our platform, which is watch dot, he actually wrote the words dot here. I need as much help as I can get. If you're viewing on our platform, watch.gracehinsdale.org, you should see our chat window. You can use that chat window to send us questions, and we will respond to them. If you click on the gear thingy at the bottom right of the chat box, you can tell us your name. Same invitation for Facebook list viewers. Use the face chat function to send us questions. Although the internet is really fast, there is about a 1-minute delay from us to you, so we can't respond to questions immediately. So if you want to put them in at any time, it actually will come up about a minute later. So, all right, with sort of that out of the way, welcome to our 2022 Committed Giving Campaign presentation. And what we're going to do here is a little different from we usually have the annual report in February. This is going to be a little bit different. We're going to have sort of a state of grace, tell you a little bit about how the finances look, and we'll jump right into it. As Ann said so capably in her remarks, just really wonderful. We have changed it to the Committed Giving Campaign because we feel like it's a little more in tune with the ethos of gratitude and giving that we want to have here at Grace Church. So with that, we always like to start with our mission statement. Welcome to the transformative power of Christ's love. If you're here, you belong. By now, you know that this mission statement has been with us for about 2 years. It replaces the mission paragraph that we had before. Really, I think, Nick, we worked really hard on that in the Vestry meeting. And so
yeah, the Vestry did a great job of listening. It really captures everything we try to do, because Christ's message, Jesus' message, was always love. And all the miracles, all the transformations that happened during his mission were based in and born out of love. And so that should guide everything we do here. And that practice of love is also part of our belonging. And so we really do at the Vestry, and everything we think about. You hear it often from the podium, and when people doing their reflections, we try to put everything through this prism, and it guides us.
Yeah, it's terrific. So where are we? Fall of 2022. We are 18 months into a transformative event. That is for sure. So as we come out of this, I think Chris is right. As we are in the pre-post-pandemic period, church activity is really up. Last week, for our beautiful, very emotional commemoration of All Souls, we had 70 attendees, which is terrific. Live streaming continues, and we're really starting to try to gather in person more and more. And that's sort of the point of doing announcements. You'll see Vestry members coming up with and doing announcements. The idea is to let everybody know just how busy we are here at Grace Church. And that's not to speak of even the Academy, which is 5 days a week here. And the Academy is, well, it's really 7 days a week, because Lift and YMO are also part of our Academy programming. So we're doing quite a bit. Ministries, our outreach has been adapting to circumstances. Dirk did a great job of describing, how PADS has changed. PADS is now, we've done it a few times. We go over to, I think it's a Red Roof Inn that is now home to a lot of people who are seeking shelter, and bring meals to them over there. So that's really been, Suzanne's done it. It's really been a change, but we're adapting. We bond remotely with our prayer call every morning. You will never hear me speak and not plug the prayer call. Kevin does an awesome job leading us in the prayer call. And the Spirited Women in Bible Study, as you can see from Grace Notes, meeting really regularly, very vibrant organizations. And Nick has some ideas that we'll get into eventually for our men to become to do a little bit of more spiritual formation. And fellowship. I thought that the Bill Christ send-off was fantastic. We really kind of put together a new model, which I think is going to allow us to live into a posture of gratitude and an ethos of gratitude and giving. And what we did was essentially decided that a couple of parishioners would underwrite the meal, and then instead of asking everybody for $10 when they come in to cover the cost of the meal, we find an outreach partner. And so if you came to that, you'll know that the outreach partner was St. Leonard's Ministries, again, Dirk, with a very compelling message. And just at that event, we raised $514 for St. Leonard's, which is, you know, that's way better than getting $120 to cover a meal, right? So, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So same idea with the Harvest Chili Cook-Off, which is going to be on November 18th. We're going to get that a little more, I think, probably send out a sign-up genius. As I said, we don't want 40 pots of chili. And yeah, again, Chris needs a mild chili. So, but that'll be fun, and we'll do the same thing with HCS. We'll ask for contributions if you feel that appropriate. So, for our financial report for 2021, we're in good shape. We really are in good shape. Revenue was down, and we'll get more into, in a minute, we'll get more into the financial statements. The donuts should be kicking, Danishes should be kicking in just at the point when we do the financial statements, so try to stay awake. Revenue was down, so were expenses. And we're going to talk a little bit about how revenue needs to go up because expenses need to go up as well. I mean, expenses are what we do here. It's not just lights, it's programming that we're anxious and looking forward to bringing back online. So the PPP loan was critical. Again, second year in a row. We had a PPP loan, I think, of $110,000 last year. And it is
a little bit more, and then a little bit more this year. It's like 140 this year, I think.
Yeah, right, exactly. 30 to the academy and 110 to Grace. Right. So everybody hopes that we do not get another, that there is no PPP loan available, right? I mean, that's not something we want to have happen because that means something is continuing. We shall not speak its name. We don't want to have that. By the way, the PPP loans, I think everybody's heard this, but the PPP loan, if we spend it in conformity with the, well, Nick, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the PPP loan, I think a lot of people are familiar with it, and if you're not, it's a government program that is considered a loan to help with payroll, rent, utilities, those types of expenses. And if you spend the money in those ways, you can apply to have the loan converted into a grant. So we've had 2 rounds of this. The first round has already been converted into a grant. That's done. The second round, we've put in our application to have it converted to a grant. We're just waiting to hear back the approval for that. We fully expect it'll happen. So we did a real nice job. The staff did a really nice job of keeping track of all of that. And so it was a very seamless process to go through that and make sure that that's taken care of the way we need it to be, so that we don't have to pay any of that back in loan.
Thanks. So we had a couple of other bluebirds, and sort of I learned this in another capacity. Bluebirds are what we call items that aren't necessarily going to reoccur, or we certainly cannot budget for them to reoccur. We had for example, a very, very generous donation after a funeral this summer that was very meaningful. I wouldn't expect that to happen again, and you'll see that. So let me just put up, this is where I said we would go through. Bear with me for a second here. Come on. Okay, here we go. So you all have a copy of the income statement and the balance sheet at your tables there. We're going to go through the income statement first. Obviously, the income statement is a little bit more compelling for what we're going to talk about today. Our pledges are about 5,000 behind, and you'll note that the non-pledged offerings are about 13,000 ahead. Neither Nick or I or anybody on the finance committee is uncomfortable with any of those numbers. We're typically a little bit behind, and we got to catch up in November and December for pledges. The non-pledged offering is interesting. I think it's largely a product of the fact that people didn't quite feel the security to commit to an amount to give last year, and therefore we're seeing that come in non-pledged offerings. So if it wasn't pledged, here I am using the pledge word, but if it wasn't committed, it counts as a non-pledged offering. So we've budgeted that to rise in keeping with the fact that it has been rising over the years, even before the pandemic, but not to this extent, because the thinking is that hopefully people are going to feel a little more secure in making a commitment this year, and so that non-pledged offering number, which has historically been going up, I think we've got it budgeted for like 65,000. So, as we said, Easter we did pretty well. None of these numbers are really out of line. What you see here at the bottom here is the PPP loan, right? There's $110,000, so keep that number in mind. And that puts us at a revenue number that is we're about 45,000 ahead of budget right now. And then our expenses are down as well in many areas. We're pretty close to where we need to be with salary and benefits. Just a little bit down. Things happen with hires and benefits that just showing a little bit of variation there, but nothing to worry about. Building maintenance, you can see we're $14,000 behind budget. I think that's pretty much still the snow. That's a huge chunk of that is snow. So we, as everybody knows, we got a lot of it last year. So utilities were a little behind. So the total non-personnel expenses are a little behind budget, but we are we'll just get to the bottom here. Outreach or a couple of notes here. Partner support, we've kept up. Outreach is way too important to cut, frankly. It's just an incredibly important part of what we do here. The YMO mission obviously didn't happen this year, so there you see, that we're $28,000 under budget there in terms of an expense. Hopefully the YMO mission will happen next year. So that'll come back online. Our music department, Andrew was extremely gracious in offering up, hey, we're not going to be in as much. You can sort of make an adjustment to our budgeted amount. That's going to be back up next year, and that is fantastic. And then the Vestry building maintenance, you can see we're about $43,000, $44,000 under what we've spent, what we would spend. It just hasn't been a year where we've spent a lot of that. Would expect that next year we're probably going to repave the lot. We've got a lot of different projects that have to come back online next year. So you can see that revenue is a little over budget, expenses are under budget, and right now we're about 83,443 ahead of budget. What was the PPP loan? Okay, keep that in mind. So, any questions on the income statement? Yes, the Danishes are working. Oh, go ahead. Oh, I should have known.
What's the difference between the building maintenance expense and the vestry building maintenance? Is that vestry building can be capitalized and the others are all just expense?
The vestry building maintenance is half of the endowment distribution.
So, capital.
And yeah, that can be capitalized. So
part of the plan is, because we know we have bigger expenses, especially the pavement, setting it aside, we're going to hold it.
So it's like a sinking fund. I see.
Exactly. We're going to set it aside, hold it, so that next year it's all coming out of that endowment, because that's the purpose of the endowment money that's coming out, is for those bigger projects. So this year, we didn't have much in terms of surprise capital issues.
Right.
Got 2 months left.
Right.
And so set a bunch aside. Next year, we'll be able to handle the lot without having to dip into any other funds.
Got it, understood, thank you.
This is why. Nick's been doing this for like 5 years. This is. So, check with Allison on that. Yes. Oh, okay, so that was an anonymous gift, a restricted gift that is to be used for technology, correct, Chris? It's
the leftover, so we had a very large anonymous donation 3 years ago,
the floors here.
and this is all that's
Yeah.
left. And so it is dedicated to a particular thing, so that's where that's at.
Okay. The question was, why do we have an anonymous, a line item for an anonymous gift? And yeah, and that's been paying for this. It's been paying for a lot of the technology around. It paid for the floors in this room. So really a very generous gift. I should add that the next step that hopefully we'll see in a few weeks, in the next few weeks, maybe sooner, is to have a scrolling function on this. I can leave up the income statement for a long time if you guys want, but I think we'd rather see what's going on at Grace Church. So we're going to have a scrolling feature that Sheila, our communications director, will be able to control remotely, and so when you come in here and have more danishes and more coffee, we'll have sort of the programming that's going on at Grace Church.
Actually, in here, again, not to correct the senior board, I would never do that.
Please.
But in here, the service will be streamed. So if perchance you had a child that was energetic and you wanted to come out of the sanctuary, you could come in here and watch the service. The screen at the end of the hall and the east portico is what Mike was talking about, will be the scrolling internal data that we want to talk about. And also in our conference room, the service will also be streamed in there for privacy for breastfeeding moms or dads.
So if everybody at home could hear that, we're really we've got the streaming function coming up, and we'll be streaming in here and then scrolling out there, and then also streaming in the conference room. So, which is terrific. We don't really spend much time on the actual balance sheet because it's not all that exciting, to tell you the truth. We've got a number of different things here. We don't really, the checking accounts look good, the money markets accounts look good, funds move in and out of there from month to month and from really week to week. So that $4,051 you see is an expenditure for technology. This endowment use fund gets drawn down and put into the checking accounts over time. And then, the only thing I'll say is this used to be retained earnings. Retained earnings is really not an appropriate sort of mechanism for a church, so we've called it operating fund balance. Tara and I were discussing this the other day, and the idea is that it's a product of previous years plus or minus, right? Whatever we did against, if we had money left over at the end of the year or we spent a little too much money, it's, in that operating fund as it would be maybe for retained earnings, but it's also a function of the endowment use fund. So I just wanted to explain that. We have lost the thread a little bit on publishing these, for which I apologize. That's my responsibility. We had a transition with the communications director, and so we're going to get these back online once a month. You'll be seeing these in Grace Notes. So, Dirk.
Is the expectation that for next year we will do as well in fundraisers as we've done this year? This is really a great number, $40,000 in raising fundraisers. I mean, that's huge. Do you think we can do that again next year?
So, great question. The question was, do we think we can do as well in fundraising as we did this year? I hope so. I mean, I think that should be our goal. Again, in keeping with sort of an ethos of giving and an ethos of gratitude, I'm hoping that we'll be able to have another great event. I think, having one a year is a heavy lift, though, I will say that. So more to come on whether we'll have an actual fundraiser, but I think what we envision is more of smaller events raising money for outreach partners, smaller events raising money for Grace Church, and maybe a big event. But to answer your question, I do hope that we can really get our fundraising mechanism going. That's the point of the giving committee meeting around the year, rather than just to distribute names and pledge cards. Is that good enough? So the answer is I don't know, I guess. We hope. Okay, so let's get back into the presentation unless there's questions on the balance sheet. So we've sort of been through, I'm sorry, bear with me. This is the first time for this new software that we're using, and thank you for being patient. Okay, so we've touched on a little of this. Certainly hope hope no one gets another PPP loan. Expenses will increase, and that will be a sign of increased activity. One thing that we talked about, Nick and I, the other day, is children's formation. We need to get children's formation going again. We need to make an investment in children's formation during the service. So that's just an example of an expense that's going to increase, that needs to increase, and that if we're going to grow as a church, it has to increase. So the answer is still not to cut expenses. The answer is to grow the top line. This may sound familiar because I took the same presentation I did in the spring and just revised it and left that line in there. So we still need to grow the top line. So Ann alluded to this in a reflection. We're changing the nomenclature and trying to convey a shift to an ethos of giving. So the stewardship committee is now the giving committee. The stewardship campaign is now the committed giving campaign, and your pledge is an annual commitment. And just, again, giving at Grace Church is not just for a few weeks in the fall, just as our lives together are not just for a few weeks in the fall. Again, the Bill Christ send-off cookout, to Dirk's point, the giving committee is going to work to identify opportunities for fundraising, whether that's a huge fundraiser or a variety of smaller fundraisers. And we must also work to build a sense of gratitude for our lives together in Christ. Again, back to the mission statement. So we're going to get to the goal. Again, revenue expectations, no PPP loan, that's $110,000 out. Again, no meaningful change in non-pledged offerings. We expect increases in expenses, personnel, building maintenance and utilities, and areas returning to normal operations. So this is sort of a summary of what I've just talked about. And the bottom line is that committed giving also needs to return to pre-pandemic levels. And so here it is. Our 2022 annual committed giving campaign goal is $625,000. I'm going to let Nick take over here with this slide because he has been intimately involved in the last 5 years of giving.
Thanks for giving me the hardest slide. I lived this, right? So I was senior warden for the 2 years prior, and I've been junior warden light this year with Mike. What can I say? Those numbers are stark. I mean, we've dropped by a third in terms of total giving units. Not so much in the annual commitments. We've survived largely because of the PPP loans. It's made a big difference. We've had some individual gifts come along the way that have helped a lot. But it's been tough. And I can't blame people. It was a really tough 18 months. This year we had a lot of people tell us for the 2021 giving campaign, they didn't know what their incomes are going to be. Can't blame anybody for that. We had a lot of people just not commit that have historically committed. Can't blame anybody for that, right? We all were in a tough spot. We're coming out of it. And that's where who we are as a community and what we do as a community matters. Thank you, Ann, for speaking from your heart. That touched me. When you speak from the heart, it just connects people. And it's the community. Mike's right, we got to grow the top line. And that means we got to get back to committing to each other. And not dollar signs. The dollar signs come from building the community and living heart to heart. Yeah, we have an aggressive goal. I mean, our goal is $625,000. And the finance committee picked that as an aggressive goal to be like, what if we had all the funds we needed to do everything we want to invest in and not skimp? That's the number. Can Grace Church survive without hitting that number? Yeah. Yeah, we could. I'm not going to be doom and gloom here. You know, we're living in love. And so part of that is, where's this going to come from? I think some people are going to go back to pre-pandemic giving, because I think a lot of people have found out that they are going to be okay and that they're doing well financially. Other folks are not, and that's okay. Is our total number of giving units going to go up? I don't know. That's the hard part for leadership, because it used to be you'd come here on Sundays and you could see who was here, and you got a sense of who was engaged. And we're seeing more of that thanks to Mike's great reflections and that exhortation to be here and to be community. But it is true, it's kind of nice to sit in your PJs and catch the reflections that way. I get that. And what's interesting is our total number of viewers, if you go back to ASA pre-pandemic and match it up with total number of views between YouTube and streaming and Facebook and people in the seats, it's up. More people are getting our message now than before. Now, how many of those people are going to turn into giving units? I don't know. We have no sense of that. This is uncharted territory for us. And which is why we have to shift our ethos of giving to a constant give. Because that's what we do, right? We give to each other in love all the time. And the financial giving is just a part of that. It's joyous giving. We give joyously to each other, as Ann pointed out, in so many ways. Our financial giving shouldn't be any different. Let's live in that space. This will come back. We just have to live it with each other. That's all I can say.
That's why you got the slide, brother. I knew what I was doing. So thank you, and we'll open it up for questions here and also online. Polly? Nothing yet? All right. Anyone have any questions? Oh, thanks. Liz? Christine?
Sam and I walked in. It was raining that night. I remember it was really raining. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I don't want to be here. I mean, I don't want to be here. I'm like, go. Because I introduced myself to Bill Christ, his first Sunday. I'm like, I just can't have him go away and not say goodbye. It's just, you know. And so, Sam, just it's a men's event. Just call me if there are any women there. Maybe like I'll just I'll come if I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just go. So I go, we walk in, we come into the kitchen door because that's where you could hear people.
Right.
We come in and the kitchen is packed. It's packed. And I didn't even get into the parish hall for a while because everyone was in the kitchen, kind of like a family party,
Right.
And then we got in here and a lot of people were in here too. And it was just a really great event. It was great to see newer faces and older faces. And thank you for being the underwriter, you and your family, then, from what you said.
That was,
The pork was just phenomenal. The meal was fantastic, and your family was at the helm and did all the work. And I'm sure there were other people too, but
yeah, there were.
we were fed by your family, and thank you.
Oh,
It was a great event.
well, anybody who knows me knows that barbecue is truly a labor of love for me. So,
And you guys
but
all
thank
ate.
you.
There
Thank
wasn't
you.
any food left.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because people ate.
Right.
They ate, and then they went for seconds and thirds.
Yeah.
So thank
That's,
you very much.
you can thank Polly's family for that recipe for pork shoulder.
I am thankful. Yeah.
So, thank you. That's very kind. Anybody else? Have I bored everyone
No.
to death here? So. All right. So, that's our presentation. I think I don't have anything to add to Nick, as always, to his sort of plea. Go forth prayerfully, and if you've already made your commitment for next year, thank you very much. If you haven't, again, prayerfully consider, and this hopefully gives you an idea of our needs and hopefully our gifts to you in the future. That's important, and talked about that really well. And if that's it, have a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.